Welcome to Absolutely Not, the live podcast series dedicated to providing examples of setting personal boundaries at work and the vocabulary needed to name harm in those spaces. I want everyone and anyone to set personal boundaries at work and create healthy relationships in the places that they want to be in.
Thank y'all so much for being here today. I'm so grateful to everyone who keeps showing up and being a part of this growing community. I cannot thank y'all enough. The vocab words for this episode are gaslighting, discrimination, and projection. Find these words, their definitions, and more on the resources page of my website, and feel free to reach out if you'd like more words added. Today's episode is titled, Mean Girl You Out. And it resonates because I've seen it before, several times before. That message is brought to you by my special guest, Angela Shaw, voted the 2020 TXSHRM Volunteer Leader of the Year. Chief People Officer and DEI Advocate Angela Shaw is an award-winning leader, speaker, and teacher. With an extensive background in human resources, her career expands over several industries, including government, education, and now food and beverage. Angela worked her way up from an entry-level position to earn her seat at the C-suite table. She tirelessly works towards building a more inclusive world by dedicating herself to educating people about the intersection of human resources and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you so much for being here.
Yay!
I am so excited. And as I said before, the title of this episode resonates with me. Could you please share where that title came from?
Yes, I will share that. And Katrina, thank you for being brave enough to have these kinds of conversations. I love it. So it's about being in organizations where you don't feel like you belong, being in organizations where you are not included. And not only do you feel as if you don't belong and know that you don't belong, but the organization treats you like you don't belong. So they decide that you're no longer a cultural fit. This is not a place that they want you to be. And then they start having behavior towards you that proves that that's how they feel about you because they want you to quit. And that is mean girling you out. And it happens often. It happens in a lot of organizations. And I'm glad to be able to just put that out there and talk about it so that people can put a name to it and know when it's happening to them that that's what it is.
And I cannot thank you enough for putting a name to it. You know, the space is about naming harm in any of the spaces that you want to be in. So the ability for you to kind of slap a label on it, people out there who are listening, who are receiving this message are going to be able to say, oh, y'all are trying to mean girl me out. But for the people who don't really understand that concept, could you talk about the behavior that falls underneath that umbrella of mean girling you out?
Absolutely. So it becomes about your performance, but your performance is actually excellent. Then it becomes ways in which they nitpick things about you. So describing people as aggressive or a problem, or they don't get along with other people. Nitpicking about these little things that are not real things. Giving you performance evaluations that have nothing to do with your actual performance for the whole year. Those are all like actions that are a part of mean girling you out. Looking for things about you or that you've done that they feel like are wrong that they can use as examples. So as a Black woman, I've heard a lot about the aggressiveness or about the you seem angry, or when people have interactions with you, I didn't like how she talked to me. She was abrasive, but not actually being able to give real examples to prove that. That's mean girling you out.
Okay, let me process as much as I can, because these are the examples that we have seen throughout our entire career. And I say we because I have seen a time or two that behavior towards you. And what I wrote down here is looking for. If it has nothing to do with my job description or my job as a whole, and you're looking outside of the scope of that, then that umbrella of mean girling you out. And you are an HR executive at this point. So how would you encourage people to deal with that type of behavior? What would be the steps they need to start doing as soon as they realize, oh, y'all are trying to mean girl me out?
Yeah, so this boundary setting and how you set boundaries about how people treat you, I think those are definitely opportunities to do that. So individually making decisions about how I want to feel every day going into this environment. I also think when people, Maya Angelou has a saying, when people show you who they are, believe them. So when people have behavior that shows you you don't belong there, I mean, really, it's probably time to start thinking about what's next for you, but putting those boundaries in place for you to be able to do that time, which is what I call it, for however long you have to be in that environment. Because people stay in jobs for different reasons, family obligations, financial obligations. So I understand that, but putting some boundaries in place to protect yourself.
And with those boundaries, you learn more about those people. Because I think when we first start getting those signs, we immediately maybe, it could not be. But as soon as you start setting those boundaries, you're like, oh, it is. Y'all are really tripping in this organization. Has that type of, I guess, escalator ever happened to you? You set boundaries and then, oh, y'all are tripping.
Yes. I can't speak for all Black women, but I feel like it'd be hard to find a Black woman who hasn't experienced it. I mean, there is already this indictment of us when we walk in the door because we're Black and because we're a woman, and that's real. And I don't care what anybody says. So there's already that. But being confident enough, and when I talk about taking care of yourself, I'm referring to a few things when it comes to setting boundaries. So training people how to treat you. For me, it's always about how people talk to me, so how they communicate with me. That is very important to me. And I will not be disrespected in a conversation, especially if I'm having the conversation I should have. So whatever those things are for you individually, if it's how people talk to you, making sure that you know what you want that to be and that you're communicating that. But I think also mentally taking care of yourself too. So if that means using your PTO because you need a mental health day, then doing that, but just finding the ways to take care of yourself. And so whenever, of course, now having grown my career to this level, it can still happen, but it's sort of a different kind of dance that you do at this level, because people can't always just come. They don't always have actual power over you, I should say, is what makes it a little different. If it's most often it's going to be peer to peer, right? So it's not, they don't have the same power as if they're your supervisor. So while you're taking care of yourself, you do have to tread lightly, because if you have financial obligations and you want to be able to keep your job, you maybe have to sugarcoat things a little bit to be able to get by until you can get out. But for me, I'm very clear. I'm very direct. When somebody crosses a boundary with me, in real time, there's a conversation about it with an example of, this is what happened. This is how it made me feel. This is why I would like for that to not happen again. And being clear about that.
And however they take it, regardless if I put more sugar on it or not, is for them to process on their own. But I love that you talked about the time from when you realize an organization is not for you anymore and the time to get out. Is there any way that after you find out an organization is not for you, you could stay in that organization?
I'm sorry. I have to have a little bit of giggling. That's my personality too. But yeah, so I feel like it's an individual decision. So there have been situations where you could wait out a bad apple. So maybe it is just your supervisor and you're able to wait that person out because maybe you put some boundaries in place that allow you to be able to do that. Or maybe you have other joy and inspiration outside of work, and you're like, again, my reference to doing that time, I can do this time every day because the rest of my life is so wonderful. So yes, there are times at which absolutely I feel like you can endure it and maybe even outlast it. But I think more often than not, these are situations that you need to leave, and it's being able to convince yourself that you'll be okay if you leave that situation.
I don't know why that last line hit so hard, but I think you talked about in real time. So in real time, when you realize, oh, these people are not shit and I cannot retire here. I will not be able to retire at this organization. You're immediately like, well, where the fuck am I gonna go? Like, what is the train of action? And you kind of hair on fire, and you're like, well, then I'll just stay here. This is just where I'm gonna stay, and I'll endure it. But what you are telling people is, you need to make these fine decisions, whether you're going to endure it for a season or for another year so that you can save up money. These are decisions you're going to have to make. And Angela, are there any people that can help you make these decisions, or that you would suggest you bring along in making these decisions?
So it's definitely easier to do nothing. Even if you're enduring a bunch of crap, it's easier to do nothing than to actually put yourself in gear to get things done, to move yourself out of a situation. So your inner circle, that's the first place that I would start. So who are the people that you love and who love you that you can go talk to about making a move? So these are your inner circle people, your professional circle. So who are your people in your professional circle that could actually help you find your next thing? And I think this speaks to that you've been networking, that you have a professional network, that you're putting in that work before you actually need the network, right? Because it's not a good look to go ask people for stuff that you haven't talked to in years. So the continuous kind of building of that professional network, but that's the second place that to start. Going to this professional network to say, this is not really working out. This is not for me. I need more. I want different. And those are the people who can help you. The outer part of that network is people that you might not actually know yet, but maybe you see a job you're interested in and you reach out to somebody who works there as an introduction. So not as a give me this job, but I see you work for company ABC. I find that very interesting. I am considering applying. I'd love to have a conversation with you. That's the next level of people. So these are all people that can help you. So let's take it back to the beginning. Our inner circle, these are the people who love you and who you love. Your professional network is next. And then that third level is people professionally that you maybe don't know, but that you can reach out to who may be able to help you. And that's where I would go in that order.
Thank you so much for breaking down the support system that you have in place, that everybody has in place to help you move away from that abusive behavior or that relationship or that organization that just isn't clicking anymore and doesn't meet your expectations anymore. I wrote down the word proactive because I think a lot of people, we said in real time, we're reactive. We're like, okay, I gotta spruce up my resume. I gotta find a career coach. But to be proactive in this process looks a lot different. Is there anything that you are doing actively or proactively to ensure that you are boundaried and whole enough to say, oh no, this isn't working for me at this time, I'm gonna leave?
So I think that's working on your individual self and the ways in which you do that. So professionally developing yourself, keeping your certifications up to date, making sure that you are up to date in what's going on in your industry. So I work in HR. I have my senior level HR certification, but that was actually goal setting for me. So I started with the lower level. A few years later, I went after the senior level, always doing something to continuously remind myself that I am amazing, I have value, and other people want that. And I think that builds confidence. It lets you know that it's okay to leave somewhere. And when you've made the decision that you're ready to leave, these are all the things that push you up and build you up and give you air to be able to go to do these other things. So for me, it's been a lot about just continuously professionally developing myself. I always know that I'm one of the most prepared people in the room when it comes to doing HR because I've done all these things over the years to be that person. And so for me, that's what it's always been about. But there are other things, networking in your community of whatever field you're in. So for me, it'd be like finding my HR tribe people, professional associations, volunteer work, whether it's in your industry or not. So even if you like volunteered at nonprofits in your community or whatever, volunteering is a great way. Those are all the kind of things that you could be doing continuously to put yourself in good situations or always be at the point to which you can go find your next thing.
Oh my gosh, and I appreciate you talking about the confidence that comes from building yourself throughout this journey, because if you are looking for that confidence from your organization, then you'll be looking for a lot of stuff from them people, and when it turns out that they're not the people that are able to provide it, then what are we gonna do?
You're lost and you're sad, and maybe you even lose direction. And so that's why it's important that some self-confidence, if not 95% of it, comes from you. And so figuring out what the things you need to do to build your confidence. Other things I do is I celebrate meeting milestones and publicly. I will go on LinkedIn and say I did this thing. So celebrating those milestones or ways in which you're developing yourself is also confidence boosting.
I love it. That's and it's that validation that we're looking for, and it's coming from your own self. Are there any affirmations besides "you are amazing" that you use to kind of hype yourself up and tell yourself like, I don't deserve abuse and I will not accept it?
Not so much. I mean, one of my favorite phrases is "you got this." So I will look in the mirror and be like, put on some lipstick. Because for me, lipstick is the thing. I love a bold lip color. So even on a day that I'm not feeling 100% or my most amazing, I put on some lipstick, and be like, you got this. I'm actually hyped up by music a lot. So it might be a song, my favorite song at the time or whatever, but hyping myself up with music to be like, you can do this. So those are the things that I will like hype myself up with that I feel like are affirming. Sometimes actually, I'm gonna tell you the truth. And it's not that I'm vain, I'm not, but I do believe in myself. I'll go back and listen to maybe a podcast interview I did or like read an article that I wrote or something like that. And it always gets me hyped. So any type of accomplishment that a person has that they can go back and look at, you won an award or somebody wrote something nice about you, I will go back and look at that and get hyped up in a minute.
I don't think that's vain at all. I think that's the continuation of the celebration. You have done great work. You're able to revel in it and continuously go back to that for a source of encouragement. We do have a question in the chat. I just want to read it aloud. Do you think it's possible to get great performance reviews but still be mean girled out? I know for my last supervisor did it to others, and it killed me to watch and ultimately led to my resignation.
Absolutely. I think it is absolutely able for that to happen. And it actually does happen because when you have hard work and your work is good, no one can discount that. So you have a record of this hard work. So your performance evaluation is going to be good because you did a great job. What they usually will make it about is your attitude or how you communicate or interpersonal relationships with other people. But it's not you, it's the other people who are uncomfortable or who are whatever they're feeling, even though they make it about you. So the answer to that question is yes, absolutely. And also good for you for, even if it happened to other people, recognizing that that's still not right and knowing that that's not a place for you.
Thank you so much for the question, and for your amazing answer, Angela. I think so many people are out there giving their all to organizations. And then when that negative review comes, they're so taken aback, and they really, myself included, internalize that. And we think, oh, wow, I need to work harder. I need to give more to the organization. But our ability to take a step back and say, where did this come from? What is happening here? Because I don't want to feel like this anymore is so very important. What has helped you, or has anyone been crucial in your ability to take that step back when this occurs?
I don't know if it's, I mean, I've inherently just had some confidence, kind of just always, but I've always been very sure of like who I was as a person. And because I did these things to develop myself, knowing that it was not about my work. And I would say earlier in my career, it was harder to think that someone didn't like me or that I had a negative effect on somebody, and questioning if that was really the case, that I had a negative effect on somebody. But I think it was a case of like, this one person said something about you, but the other 10 people are like, she's fantastic. She does this, she does that. And I think for me, it's just been paying attention to the positive reaffirming things that I hear or that happen, as opposed to that one dissenting voice. There's always the dissenting voice, but there's more often more positive than negative. And so I think for me, that's how I've been able to like get past it. And even in situations where it was my actual supervisor who's being some kind of way with me, all the coworkers I had good relationships with. Or if it was the one coworker who was always going to the supervisor to tell on me, the supervisor never being able to have actual examples of when I raised my voice to show that I was rude or angry, when I didn't complete a project, when I was some kind of overbearing way with this coworker who's complaining. They can never come with those real things, which to me was like, well, if you don't have examples, that's not happening.
And as people in HR, we both know that we have to be on the other side. It's like, we need examples, we need data, we need information in order to move forward with this process. So for employees who are listening to this, if you get to that point in the process, you're going to have to bring that anyway. You're going to have to bring the data anyway. So might as well be, I think about this often. In articles and stuff, you'll see a study done by UC Berkeley or a study done by Harvard. Do your own damn studies. Do your own little studies at work and say, okay, today my boss was passive aggressive in an email and CC'd everyone in my department. Not sure what's going on there, but I'm gonna write this shit down because I don't like it. So yeah, perform your own studies. Do you have anything else to add to the performing your own studies?
Yes, because as HR people, we tell managers a lot to document, because more often it's the manager coming to say this employee sucks and I want to fire them. And we're always going to send them back to documentation. But guess what? That also works on the other side of the coin. So this documenting that passive aggressiveness and all of the other stuff that's happening, employees can also have their own documentation too. And I would definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. You heard it here from a top HR executive. I would definitely do that. Ooh. So as we round it out today, I would love to hear your top 3 tips for individuals who are listening to this and are thinking, wow, I'm gonna start doing my own studies. I'm gonna start confidence boosting. I'm gonna start listening to my own shit again. What would be the top 3 tips you'd give them to move forward in this new path that they're gonna grow in?
You know what, Katrina, I would love to have 3, but I have 1 and I think it's enough. And what I would say to anybody is the boundaries are yours to set. Like, you have the power to set your boundaries. And I think it's important individually that we activate our power in setting our own boundaries with other people, because no one can take care of you better than you. And that would be my top tip.
Activate your power, because we talked about this earlier. sometimes we're waiting for that organization to give us our power. Like, hey, go ahead and stand up for yourself. Activate it. Grab the baking soda. I'm thinking of baking soda and like activate it today. Do it. Oh my goodness. Thank you for that. Thank you for giving us permission to do that. Ooh,
yeast activate. Yeast activate
yeah.
flour to create bread that rises. Yes, activate.
That rises. Oh my God. Visual. Go buy you some. You don't even have to buy the yeast. You have the yeast already. Angela, okay, I will process that on my own time. Are there any last minute sprinkles that you'd like to share with the audience today?
I just, thank you for letting me come here and have this conversation. And I just love people seeing other perspectives. I love for people to be able to make their own decisions. And again, I'm going to leave everybody with activate your power, and not just for yourself, but also for other people. Because there are those of us out here who aren't as free to speak up. I'm glad to have this freedom to have these conversations. And if you have that freedom, use it to help other people.
Okay. The word that is flashing in my head is privilege, just because that's that's a buzzword right now, the word privilege. But even in the same sentence, like if you have the ability, like to have these conversations, do it. The ability to stand up for yourself, because somebody out there, Deborah, George, whoever it is in your department is thinking, wow, that person is awful. I really wish we could stand up to them. Angela is telling y'all today, you have the yeast, use the yeast, make some bread and do what you need to do. Oh, I cannot thank you enough for bringing all of this energy in this space and just everything I've learned from you in this short amount of time. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody who showed up. We'll see y'all next time. Keep saying absolutely not to anything on the line. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Absolutely Not. Your support means the world to me. You can always further support the show by leaving a review or visiting the Support the Mission page on my website, www.katrinastroll.com. My website is also where you can register for upcoming live episodes, watch amazing past episodes of Absolutely Not, and buy Absolutely Not merch. Yay! Until next time, keep setting those boundaries and saying absolutely not to anything unaligned. See you next time.